First of all, I wanted to talk to you about your new single, "To All My Friends," and I don't know, kind of just ask you what you can tell us about that song, themes or your influences for it. It seems pretty straightforward, but do you have any hidden messages or anything?
Nah, that song is about as straightforward as it gets.
Yeah.
Initially, I think the song was supposed to be a little bit more focused on kind of the concept of doing this for a job. And I think that kind of still, comes through, but I kind of abandoned getting too deep with it and just going for something a little bit more fun and just kind of, rapping.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
When we made it, we never intended for it to be a single. When we made it, it was just kind of like one of those things that we didn't even know if we'd ever release, truthfully. But when we decided to call the tour "To All My Friends," it made sense to go ahead and leak that song as a means to kind of help promote the tour or something. I'm not sure. I'm not a big part of all that marketing stuff that those guys do down at the office.
Yeah. Yeah, that leads me to another question is, how often are you writing and then, recording music that you just don't ever release?
Daily. I do probably about 40 to 50 hours a week of writing now. And now that I've taught myself how to use GarageBand, I just demo tons and tons and tons of shit. And then stuff that we actually go in and re-record and try to make it better than the demo, But yeah, a lot of stuff never gets heard. But I think most musicians, most artists even are like that. It's like if you paint, how many of your ideas that you start for a painting never get seen or never even get completed or finished?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things. You start because you have an idea, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the idea is going to flush out well enough for you to present it to a stranger.
Yeah, that's cool. It seems like a lot of your music now seems to bring alive, the themes of adulthood and manhood. Do you think now you're getting more of a grasp on what's really important in life?
I mean, I don't know if there's a real way to give you an honest answer to that. You know what I mean? Because who's to say that what I think is important now is still going to be important to me in 5 years? I think ultimately what people like me tend to do is they just let their stuff reflect where they're at that time. Granted, there's kind of a delay though. For instance, if I make a song, you don't hear it for a year. So that song might be based off of where I stood when I made it, but there's been times where I've made songs and then by the time the record comes out, I don't even necessarily feel the same way I felt when I made that record. You know what I mean? And so it's like anything, man, you and everybody, we all just kind of keep moving. It's all just a personality evolution. You continue to change and morph and go through phases, and my music just happens to reflect the different phases I've gone through while at the time of making that music.
Are you finding that it's harder to relate to kids nowadays?
I mean, I can't say it's harder to relate to them because I have a 16-year-old son, and so it's like I have a front row seat to watching a teenager, to seeing how teenagers are, and I still understand it and I still relate to it. I think that, nowadays there's a difference between how me and the audience coexist, whereas 10, 15 years ago, I was just trying to be excitable and have a great time and party with the crowd. Whereas now it's like, I think that the audience doesn't see me so much as another kid, but maybe I don't know, maybe your goofy uncle. The uncle that shows up and maybe had a couple of beers and started talking more shit than most of your uncles talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can't really call it, because I'm not in the audience. I don't really know what the hell they're thinking. You know what I mean? But I just know that my relation to them is more of a there's definitely with the younger fans, there's definitely I'm inspired to try to not lie to them and not, I don't want to manipulate them. I'm not trying to get them to fall for anything. If anything, I'd rather just be that uncle that maybe was able to give you one line of advice that might help steer you through a situation you're dealing with right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just feels so pretentious for me to say, because it's not like I believe my music helps people. But when I do have to reflect and figure out what the connection between me and a younger fan base might be, I have to believe that it's like they're listening to these things and hopefully they're getting a little quality of truth there that they might not get from their parents, because your parents aren't necessarily allowed to talk to you certain ways sometimes,
Yeah. What do you think about, like, all the kids who look up to you as a role model? Like, I mean, you have a lot of people out there who listen to your music and you inspire them.
I mean, that, those types of things you don't have control of. People do that to you. People decide if they want to use you as a role model. You can't step outside and be like, I'm going to be a fucking role model. Or, I don't want to, you can't even say, because I've heard certain artists and even athletes say, I don't want to be a role model. It's like you don't really have control over that. If eyes are on you, and you might be a role model, or, you might be a disgrace. You might be one of, you know what I mean? And so it's like, but you don't get to control it. You just get to make what you make of it, And so, I don't know necessarily that my life has been, I haven't made the best decisions in my life. I haven't always done what's right, so I don't know that I would consider myself a role model. But, if other people do, that's not something that I really get to have an opinion about. It is what it is,
Mm-hmm. A couple years ago, I saw you when you were doing the Atmosphere Roki.
Oh, yeah.
Why'd you decide to do that, and you think you'll ever bring something like that back?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like if I brought it back, it would take away from how special I felt it was the first time. When I decided to do it, I just did it because I thought it would be funny. I was like, nobody's ever done this. I've never heard of a single band do this. You could go to like certain bars and there's like indie rock karaoke, or there's even rap karaoke where they're going to play a Slick Rick instrumental and you're supposed to rap the words. But I've never seen a band actually host their own karaoke before. You know what I mean? And so I just thought it was funny and hadn't been done yet, and I thought there was a quality to it for its, it's like, here, I did it. Who's gonna copy me now, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? That's what I thought when I originally thought of the idea. But once we did the first show, I realized it's way bigger than that. Like, this dude that's next to me rapping my words, and I'm doing the backups for him. He is so excited to be up here right now. You know what I mean? That it turned into something really fucking, I guess, adorable. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what other word to use, man. But it was like, it turned into something really, really great. You know what I mean? Whereas it originally started off as not a joke, but just something to be funny and to make people go, what? You know what I mean? But like it ended up becoming like something that was just really fucking, really cute. You know what I mean? And I really liked it. So in that sense, I would do it again. But I'm just, I don't want to like spoil it by.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it. It was exactly how you described it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, it was, to me, that was one of my favorites. That was one of my favorite things of ever being on stage, was being on stage hosting that karaoke shit. Like, I had so much fun doing that it was like, I don't even know how to compare it to performing. You know what I mean? Like, it was beyond performing, because the pressures of performing weren't even really there. It was like, this is just pure fun,